Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome all. I do have an announcement that we will be stopping any regular business at 6:15 for a zone change hearing. We have the agenda before us. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions from staff members or the board?
Just our concern with trustees, Route 62.
Okay, Route 60. Okay, the agenda will stand as edited. First business is new business.
Thank you. I have a resolution for the board to enter into an agreement with the Board of Stark County Commissioners for the operation and maintenance of 3 stream gauges and 1 precipitation gauge for the Nimishillen Creek Drainage Basin, not to exceed $5,250.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, we've actually, this is an ongoing thing for us. It's kind of a collaboration as well with other political subdivisions. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution for subsurface soil investigation and geotechnical report for the Plain Township Amphitheater for several soil samplings.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the end of new business.
Thanks. That takes us to the fiscal officer. Tom?
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $686,619.05.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report.
Okay. Any questions with Tom? See him afterwards.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a resolution to authorize payment to members of the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals for the period January 1, 2022 through June 30, 2022, at a rate of $50 per meeting for a total of $1,300.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a resolution to authorize payment to members of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for the period of January 1, 2022 through June 30, 2022, at the rate of $50 per meeting for a total of $750.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Thanks, Tom. That takes us to back to the administrator.
Thank you. I'm presenting a resolution authorizing the Plain Township Board of Trustees to file an application for Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Grant funding and agree to obligate the necessary funds to complete the Monarch Meadows Preserve project.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrator.
Thanks. That takes us to Fire Chief Schallenberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize purchase and payment for 2 key secure Knox boxes from the Knox Corporation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to offer employment to John Jufrey II, EMT Basic, as he's completed fire, medical examination, and background checks and drug testing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, we sworn him in for Thursday night. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment for Eco 10 hose from QDCIP fire equipment, not to exceed $3,200.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded, discussion, obviously this has a shelf life now.
That's correct, we had some fail at hose testing.
Yeah. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees for purchase and payment shipping for fire protective gear, including boots, fire gear, and miscellaneous equipment from Fire Force, not to exceed $7,200.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to accept the resignation of Ryan Brewster as a Plain Township part-time firefighter. That should be a correction, that's actually EMT, effective June 24th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. That takes us to road, JP, welcome
Thank-
back from vacation.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Road number 1, our only item tonight, is a resolution to authorize purchase and payment to Evans Supply for snowplow, cutting edges, and hardware not to exceed $7,800 from the following fund.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion,
I thought we had previously put a rule in place that this wasn't to be introduced until 30 days before the first event, so I'm
Yes.
expecting this in like November.
Well, we're hoping to jinx it this year.
Yeah.
And as I earlier stated, a $50 price increase from the last time we ordered, so we're trying to get a jump on it, so. You know, it's one of those supply chain issues too,
yeah.
so.
It's consistent everywhere, anything else, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes road.
Thanks, JP, that takes us to zoning, Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items A through D as nuisance abatement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A through C as nuisance abatement payments.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And on number 3, we will come back to that at the appropriate time, but I will say, Vinnie's doing a good job getting out there, because this list obviously was longer when the original agenda came out, and it's pretty obvious. I drove by some properties today, and they were already mowed, so pass that along to your office, and the people responsible for jumping on that early. Okay, we'll come back to 3, once we do the hearing, and, we will go to Parks, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize the referee clinic.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment to Senate memorials for production of the Purple Heart line.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
That concludes Parks, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Nothing on the wall director, nothing under communications. That takes us to the portion of the meeting for public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board on the non-related zoning issue, you can address the board now, but we will have to stop in 5 minutes for the hearing.
My name is Brian Rosted, and I own Imperial Conveying Systems. And I think we're on
Sir,
the
that's-
agenda.
that
Yeah,
falls
you
under our
are
scope.
here from the zoning hearing, you're here for the zoning hearing? Okay, we will address that at
Okay.
6:15.
All right,
Anything else? Okay, seeing none, concerns of trustees, Route
I
62.
promised a couple of business owners over there to talk to, a couple of you were copied on the email. The 62 realignment project, federally funded state road in the township. There's already a number of folks that are, I mean, it's disrupting just all the way around. And as part of the agreement on the very forefront would be that the businesses that were still there would have the alternative access, which is essentially through the neighborhood. Well, I've been through there on a relatively regular basis. I've seen through my own observations, but the icing on the cake that, you know, outside the business, one of the two business owners having it was, I pulled down the side street, they literally had the, road closed sign right at the intersection, which shouldn't be the case, because they still need access to the buildings. But then you had the concrete truck and all of the, the contractors parked along this business, to where they were denying people access. Why I'm bringing this up outside for the business owner is, whether it's fire, parks, road, if we see something while we're over there, let's document it and escalate it. Because the response we got back was pretty much a light blow off as far as I'm concerned, and I'm gonna wait until it's a matter of happening again, I'm sure. But, outside of the business's impact, seriously, as many vehicles were there, Chuck, there's no way you wouldn't even got a medic. I mean, not that the guys couldn't work their way, but if you need to get up close, there's absolutely zero reason that should be happening. And I know the contractor who's on the job site got pretty crappy with one of the two business owners over there, and I just happened to be in street clothes and no township markings or anything. And I turned around and told him, this is to immediately be open and access. And I'm sure he just, not knowing who I was, like, okay, they immediately moved it. It was probably fluke, but, if they're willing to be that confrontational with the business owners over there, I get it. It's in the name of progress and safety, but, there's also certain promises those businesses were made. And then, I mean, really the precursor is the safety element for should we get a call right there. ODOT did, order some additional signage, as they said in the email, and then we may have to keep an eye on that, because they said, oh, well, that's the township road. I'm like, and I told the one owner, I'm like, that's correct. And I had already made the promise, right, wrong, or indifferent, that we would, once those signage were available, we would ensure that they would be put up if need be. It's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, because we had that discussion initially when we were sat down and talked about accessibility to those people. And, we were assured that, their businesses would be accessible. And I just think that maybe the people that are in those trucks and vehicles just, seem to forget that it's a temporary hardship, and you gotta be accommodating. So,
Yeah, especially when there's so many other areas that they can be
yep.
parking. It's one of those, I just don't even want to walk to where Eric Haynes is. It's really that pathetic. So that's all I had for the sake of the record. The business owners.
We'll keep an eye on that too.
Yeah, they actually moved a few barrels over today a little bit to make it a little smoother to get down through there. That is kind of congested. Anything else regarding 62? All right, I think we'll move ahead with the hearing. So at this point in time, we will proceed with the hearing on the zone change at 4155 and 4165 Martindale Road. Tom, you want to give us just a little bit of a brief overview before we take testimony?
Sir, the applicant is requesting a zone change on two adjoining properties. These properties are located at 4155 and 4165 Martindale Road. Both properties are currently zoned B2, General Business District, and the applicant is requesting that both be changed to an I2, General Industrial Zoning District. The zoning commission has heard and recommended denial of this application. Stark County Regional Planning Commission also received paperwork on it, and their recommendation was for denial.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this zone change?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the fiscal officer. You can stay there if you want.
Sure. My name is Brian Rosted, and I'm the owner of Imperial Conveying Systems at this property. Do you need my personal address?
Business address.
Now, business address.
Yeah, so it's at the 4155 Martindale. So we bought this 2 years ago, and it's doing well. We are hoping to expand, and I'm also in the process of purchasing the property myself. So I understand all the concerns that the Regional Planning Commission has. And I'm reviewing everything, and I apologize, but I think they said, you know, what happens if we would sell it, if you gave us the zoning change, you know, a company could come in and do something really poorly. So I'm wondering if, as the owner of the property, I could get a conditional zoning change while I'm the owner. And then if we sell it, then it reverts back to, you know, what it is now. We're not looking at doing major fabrication, but we'd like to upgrade the electric service to phase 3. I'm not an electrician. So that's going to be quite an investment. You know, and I don't want to do that and then get busted for, you know, we're doing fabrication. All of the fabrication that we would be doing really is pretty minor, because we don't have a big enough facility, we don't have an overhead crane. You know, we'd like to invest in the building, because right now they can just run one welder. They do some minor welding, this is off the record. They do some minor welding, and if they try to use 2 pieces of equipment, the breaker, you know, they don't have enough electric power. You know, we're a growing business. We're trying to get a larger service crew, and if we could do a little bit of fabrication, it can help keep these guys busy when they're slow out doing service. So, you know, I'm wondering if that's a possibility to get the zoning change while I am the owner of the building. And you guys should come out every year, you know, look around, and we can get that, we could get it renewed every year. So that's why I'm here. You know, I read everything about us being turned down. I read through it. Yeah, makes sense. You don't want anything, some kind of major fabrication, making all kinds of noise in that area.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is more of a question of combination, but I mean, even on a conditional.
That's what I was gonna ask the
I
same.
mean, we have to go off of what was put on the zoning application. If we're to consider anything different, it's outside of what's
It's a
here.
New application. Or a new request would have to come in.
Yeah, this isn't what, we applied for, correct. But I thought I'd come and talk to you.
Can you address the question that was asked about changing it and then changing it back, which is literally an impossibility?
Yeah, it's, once we change the zoning, particularly when we make it less restrictive, it's impossible for us to kind of put that toothpaste back in the tube. The zoning change that's being asked for under this particular, from B2 to I2, I believe, cannot be conditioned on the property being held by one party. It's gonna be, they're gonna decide, we change this zoning, and if we do, that's what the zoning is for this parcel, running successively, no matter who owns it.
Okay. I was not aware of that.
So. If a property's just sitting vacant for a period of time.
Usually it's 2 years, I think I know.
Okay. It would revert back to typically a residential classification. And what the example I'm thinking of is the old certified or Starfire
Yes.
gas station on North Market, close to Station 4, that ultimately, because it's that vacant, never, hey, we're gonna put a donut shop, we're gonna put a pizza shop in there.
Right.
Well, you gotta come before us, well, it's already business. No, it actually defaulted back after a period of
Right.
time, whatever that is, so.
So with this, I mean, I think it's, you're operating under a conditional use permit currently, if I understand
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
Yes, and so that can obviously continue so long as the same use continues, but as I understand, you're seeking to expand the use, thus the zone change request.
I think the major issue is the zone change is on the property, not on the owner. So the owner can leave, but the
Correct.
zone change stays.
That is correct.
But what were you saying, Eric?
And I was saying, one of the reasons it's so hard to get back is, you know, if under your request that you're talking about, if we were to change it and say, okay, it's just for you, then when we go to restrict that new owner, they're gonna win that court case every time.
Okay.
So that's just, because they bought it, it was I2, we're not aware of all the sales that go on, you know, all that kind of stuff, and that's gonna stick.
So let me ask this question. It's conditional use. If he was to come forward and say, hey, I want to put on a 10,000 square foot addition because buys these parcels, you know,
Yeah.
consolidates them down through the auditor and so forth, he can technically come back in. Will you have to come back in for an expansion of that conditional?
Absolutely.
And you have to keep in mind, you can't expand the conditional use beyond what it was originally.
But that's what I'm getting at is, okay, if he's still operating within that space, the type of operations he's operating
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
but it's simply in a 30,000 square foot
Yeah.
facility instead of a 10,000 square foot facility, whatever it is, that he can legally
Yes,
do.
yeah, he hasn't expanded his use, he can build more, he can do more, all of that. It's the
So-
use that's important, not necessarily, you know, so long as the buildings comply with zoning, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's the use that's more important than the size of the facility.
Because conditional makes it temporary for his condition.
Correct.
If we would create the actual zone change, that's permanent.
Correct.
Can you apply for a conditional use?
No, that's not how that works. The conditional use permit is tied to the original use of the facility.
So, okay, I follow that.
So,
I mean, our zoning doesn't, if you just let me finish. I mean, if he puts three-phase electric in there, that doesn't fall under his own, I mean, he can have,
The electrical has
he
nothing.
can have absolutely whatever type of electrical
That's right.
service he wants
Yeah.
into the facility.
Yeah.
It's the matter of the extent of the work
That's correct.
see, we don't have a huge shop, and we use that for some assembly. You know, we do custom conveying systems. So we'll design a conveying system to move aggregate, limestone, gypsum. Coal used to be big, but our facility's pretty small, so we don't have an overhead crane, so we don't have a major facility. So the type of assembly we do are usually small, overground conveyors that we can do assembly in our shop. You know, if we got a permit, we could get a bunch of channels, we could do the cutting ourselves, we could drill the holes, and it would be inside. But that is technically fabrication, which we're not zoned to do.
Right.
You know, so I'm an engineer by trade, you know, I'm like, we're not gonna hurt anything. But I do know we need to follow the zoning, we need to follow the law. So we're not, you know, to invest in a three-phase, we only need it if we're gonna have a lot of equipment in there. You know, right now, we get by with what we have, so.
So from a relational aspect, not being super intimately familiar with your industry, how would you guys be, I know we had combi packaging over off Columbus / East Center, that they relocated over to Jackson. What was that zone over there? Essentially,
I think that's an I-1 in the area that the combi packing is.
Anything else? Anything else you wish to speak to the board in regards to? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to the zone? Okay, I think we can move to 3.
Well, actually, we need to conclude or close.
Oh, yeah. So at this time, at 6:28, I will close the public hearing portion for the zone change of 4155 and 4165 Martindale. Now we can move on to number 3.
Thank you, sir. Item number 3 is a resolution to vote on changing the zoning map for properties located at 4155 and 4165 Martindale Road Northeast from B2 General Business District to I2 General Industrial District.
At this time, whereas a public hearing was held on June 28, 2022 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider amendment 581-22 to the zoning resolution. This is a zone change for the properties located at 4155 Martindale, parcel number 5218195, and 4165 Martindale Northeast, parcel number 5218194, both of which are zoned B2 General Business District. The applicant is requesting to have both parcels zoned I2 General District, whereas this hearing was held based on Ohio Revised Code, whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and the reasons, therefore, the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission, Stark County Regional Planning, and information provided by any and all interested parties. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to adopt the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for denial.
You've moved, I'll second.
It's It's been moved and seconded, discussion.
I think for discussion to work off the comments that we had during the public hearing. The technicality here for me is, I mean, you can't go from B2 to I2. Zoning is clearly a stepped, phased approach. And unfortunately, once we set something, we can't pull back. I know this doesn't offer much solace, but I mean, I've been here, I'm absolutely pro-business, and that's why we've had the experience that we have in the township, but unfortunately, in this situation, it's the surrounding properties, that even with the best of intention, I can't just look at what you're as honest as the day is long. I still have to look forward to, if I'm a slum business owner and I come in and, hey, it's I2, there's nothing they can do to me. That's a challenge. I still would like to see, outside of once we make a decision on this, if I think there are some valid points of, I don't know if there's anything more we can do under the conditional use aspect from accommodating more size, but clearly it would still have limitations for what it is, so that's,
Yeah, I would agree with that logic. I think when you look at all the surrounding properties, you know, once we make that more radical, zoning to go higher, it's almost virtually impossible. And I'm not saying you're not always gonna be there, but that
Yeah.
particular property zoned in that way is gonna make it attractive to somebody else that might come in and have a business that,
So
you know, generates
that's the
noise.
Ohio
And
law,
they're-
that once you change the zoning, you can't rescind it.
No, it's
It's a
what I was
process.
referring to was, that process is difficult because once you have a business, let's say we put it to I2, and let's say that we don't know that it got sold and transferred, and something goes in there that the neighbors and everybody hates. Let's say, I'm not picking on anybody here, but let's say an adult entertainment facility goes in there.
skills games.
Or a skills games, or something like that. We're gonna be flooded with all these people that come in and say, oh my gosh, how did you let this happen? When we go to change that, the business owner is going to sue and say, I am allowed to be there because it's I2.
I don't mean to be disrespectful. Can we put something in our deed that says, if we sell this, it reverts back? So when we sell it,
Officially, by Ohio Revised Code, it has to go through that official process.
And it's not a private property issue. That's the problem with the deed idea, which I think is a great idea, but it's not a private property issue.
Yeah.
okay,
But I agree with Scott, I still like that idea of looking to see what can be done conditionally. Because that kind
Yeah,
of.
Tom and I can look at the conditional use permit and
Yeah.
have a discussion about, you know, what exactly the expansion would include for you. I just don't know anything, I haven't looked at it, so I don't know what it allows you to do.
well, I appreciate, you know, there's so much advantages. You know, we're hiring a young guy that's an engineer, but he's willing to go out in the shop. Let's show him how to weld. But I'm speaking of a perfect world, we don't live in a perfect world, you know, so I understand. But I'd appreciate any help you can, you know, that we could do some minor fabrication, but it is still fabrication.
Let's, I'll work with Tom after this, and we'll see if there's any wiggle room in that conditional use permit you already have.
So
Okay.
let's circle back.
So I can just, who can I follow up with?
We need, before we go any further, realistically, we need to bring this to a
Sure.
vote, because what we're talking about here falls outside of what we have to vote on, so.
As far as the conditional use, correct?
Right.
Anything else regarding any questions based on this particular issue? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Okay. So, Eric, Tom,
I will get back with you.
Okay,
Give us a little bit of time.
sure. Todd is the president, Todd Bepper is the president. He's down there all the time.
I've got his number.
I have an engineering company in Akron that
Okay,
we work real closely with, but Todd's,
very good.
he's the guy. I appreciate all of your time
sure.
and your,
Good luck.
well, I'm glad that you guys are pro-business and, you know, I do understand. You gotta follow the rules or else,
It's,
you gotta follow the rules. So,
But you guys will get together and then
Yeah.
follow up.
yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Yeah.
thank you.
We have approval, we are to approval of minutes.
Also, we have approval of special meeting minutes for June 2nd.
A second. Been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. See, that takes us to adjourn. I will move for adjournment at 6:36 PM.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.